All right, we're live. What's going on, Ryan?
What's up, Ryan? How's it going, man?
Good to talk to you. This
You
was one of
too.
those
Yeah.
one of those emergency pods where I had all these ideas and I was texting you about them. So I figure we might as well just hop on and record. That way, our thoughts don't get lost.
Yeah. Let's, no, thanks for thinking of me for it. And yeah, looking forward to the conversation. So yeah, let's
Yeah.
jump
So
in.
I'll give the headline first, and then we'll kind of do some background on each of our situations. First, the reason we're talking is I think we both agree the staffing industry is going to be transformed and disrupted more than probably any other industry in the world with AI agents. I think staffing
Hmm.
firms that are classically known as human talent firms are going to become a hybrid of human talent as well as providing AI agents to their customers. And if they don't, there's a whole bunch of revenue at risk, and their business is going to have to change. So before we get into that, though, Ryan, kind of give some background on yourself because you and I have worked in the staffing industry for about 10 years, providing AI solutions. 2015, we worked on an AI agent use case for one of the largest staffing firms when I was at
Yeah.
Narrative Science and you were still at Launchpad. But give some background on yourself. And I know Launchpad's a huge
Yeah.
Salesforce and Agentforce partner.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah. So yeah, Ryan, am the president at Launchpad. My background, I used to be a developer. So I have a programming background and for me, I'm just like incessantly passionate about like, how do you automate everything and anything that can be automated so that humans can actually do the more fun, interesting work that we all want to do. And so, how I got into the AI world, back when, you and I first met was, through programming, you start to realize that there's only so much you can do with raw, if then statements, with raw code, right? And I think that's where AI is so exciting, is that from an automation ability standpoint, to be able to actually have an intelligence layer to your automation, it really opens up like an infinite number of use cases. And now with where we're getting to from a general intelligence perspective, and like to your point, we're starting to see these lines blur on like, well, what is human only stuff and what can machines do? And that line is getting more and more blurry by the day. Which is just it's a really interesting time, to be in technology and to be a technologist. So, anyway, that's kind of my background. And, as far as like Launchpad and Agentforce in particular, we have we've been working in the Salesforce space for the last 10 years, doing a lot of sort of custom development on the Salesforce platform, as well as doing, custom development on their product called Heroku, which is, sort of like an AWS, actually runs on AWS, but it's really truly custom software development there as well. And so when Salesforce showed that they were committing to this AI, especially the Gen AI strategy a couple years ago, we really just jumped in feet first because we knew this is the way things are going, and so we've been very active in the AI space within Salesforce, helping customers roll out Agentforce, and just help them start to tackle some of their scaling challenges with coupling their humans with AI, across their sales, service, operations. So yeah, that's kind of the background on us, and looking forward to digging in on this with you.
Yeah, that's why you were the first person I thought of. I mean, kind of going back 10 years ago, there was no such thing as a large language model. The work we did in staffing at that time was really around building these mini language models kind of from scratch. It was a very arduous process. And then you would create an API and then you'd wrap kind of like a front end around it, whether that was Salesforce or something else. But the use cases were the same. It was, how do we digitize and transform how candidates uh, find jobs and get hired and find the right job for them? How do hiring managers go through like a pool of hundreds of candidates? How do we find the right ones? And that's the project that we worked on. So I think
Hmm.
today,
Yeah.
2025, with large language models, it's a completely
Yeah.
different ballgame. And I think a lot of the use cases that you and I kind of fantasized about, there's so much more attainable right now. So I guess I think the vision that I want to talk about was a couple of things. One, large language models today, every couple of weeks, there's kind of a new advancement, there's a new kind of breakthrough. It's clear to me, and I think you too, that so much of the digital work, non-physical labor that people do today can be done as well, if not better than, using a large language model or AI agents sitting on top of that. And in staffing, their entire business model is built around this idea that, hey, if you have to hire a bunch of people for a call center or your IT help desk, or if you're in retail and you got to staff up for the holidays, that's really hard to do, go work with, insert name of big staffing firm. So much of that work now can be done with AI. And so what occurs to me is these typical kind of old school businesses that are very good at finding talent, sourcing talent, building relationships with hiring managers, and then making those connections between the two, they're going to have to figure out how to not only place human talent where it makes sense. If they don't figure out how to staff AI agents for their customers are going to do it themselves. And I'm guessing most CEOs and their boards are sitting there thinking, how do we get ahead of this? Uh, and so I wanted to talk to you about that a little bit. So the first statement is just, do you think that I'm off on this? Am I too far into the future? Because it is kind of bold to say that these
I
old
mean,
school staffing firms are now AI agent firms. What do you think about that?
no, I mean, at the end of the day, like, hiring is about, we, in the product development world, we like to think about things as like jobs to be done. You have jobs that you need to get done, and in those jobs to be done, you can go hire humans for, or you can go hire AI agents for. And now it's getting really confusing on, well, which should I do? And I think that's where, as a staffing firm, being able to come to clients and have that consultative relationship where you can help advise them on their strategy on where should I invest in people talent and where should I invest in AI talent. And I think that's an opportunity to start to really like become more of a thought leader with your clients, to kind of be, not just being able to provide a service on the human side, but on the AI side as well. And to be thought about for, hey, I've got this need. Can you help me solve this need through a combination of things? And really, I mean, it's kind of similar to how, like, onshoring versus offshoring. Like, how do you think about like a hybrid of those two things? Like, I think there's going to be some element of that too here with like AI agents, where it's like, well, do we want to onshore? To what extent do we want to hire humans versus AI agents, and where are we kind of having each of those focus? So I totally agree with you. I think it's a great opportunity for staffing, and I think there's a lot of questions on where to
Yeah.
plug who in, and they can start to answer those for clients.
But let's ideate a little bit and kind of, let's think about that future and kind of not saying make predictions, but just think it through a little bit, knowing what we know about technology and knowing what we know about the staffing world. Um, it occurs to me that you said it's a big opportunity for staffing. The top five global staffing firms, their annual revenue is around $100 billion combined. Um, I would think that a decent portion of that is already at risk. And I'm sure there's these staffing contracts that might last for a year, 2 years. So maybe we haven't seen a revenue impact yet, but it's coming if you don't get ahead of that. And the reason I think staffing firms are so interestingly positioned is it's not just placing people to do work, or even placing AI agents. It's how do the people work together? How do the agents and the people, how do they fit together? How do you build HR strategies so that this new way of hiring digital labor doesn't create undue conflict in the clients? It doesn't create legal risk. It doesn't create regulatory risk. It occurs to me that you've got all these software firms delivering the raw talent, the labor, the digital labor, um, and then you have the staffing firms that really understand the human side of this. But I just feel like there's a massive opportunity, like you said, to kind of be a value added partner so that all of the risks that the clients are going to face with hiring AI agents, they can look to the people who have been doing this work for, in some cases, 100 years. These staffing firms have been around forever. Um, that to me, it becomes imperative that they have not only AI agents built for their own companies to use, they should already be finding their flagship customers right now and building these things out together in sort of a pilot setting. I'll just kind of pause. How do you see this, technically speaking, um, playing out over the next couple years?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that what I anticipate we'll see is there's going to be a lot of disruption, a lot of change, right? Especially in like what roles are being hired, what roles are let's just use the software development industry as an example. That's the industry I'm in. We work with staffing firms who help us find great software developers. I think as the next 2 to 3 years unfold, and already right now, like when I write code, I am very much doing it in a guided AI first kind of approach, right? Like I'm not writing code on my own anymore. AI is largely writing code for me with me guiding it. And so as you think about what types of candidates you're hiring in any, role, you're looking for people who are kind of up to speed on how to augment themselves with AI as well. So I think staffing firms who can kind of get ahead of like this AI strategy side could like really position themselves as like not only do you need to hire AI agents, but you need to make sure you have the right people who can work with these AI agents. There's going to be
Right.
a lot of hiring there
Yeah.
and what's going to happen is as you start to have people being repurposed into more value add activities, as AI is taking the lower value stuff, humans being repurposed into higher value add activities, you're going to have a lot of value creation, which
Hmm.
is going to turn into companies making investments, making bets into new things, new initiatives. There will be more hiring that will end up happening. We've seen this with every wave of new technology. There's always that initial like, okay, there's going to be some people who are being laid off. AI is taking their job, right? But then, the people who like I think about software development, you're always going to need people to shepherd the software development process. You're always going to need an engineer to ultimately review, approve the code, make sure we don't have security issues. Maybe you don't need a team of 6 to build a piece of software now. Maybe you need a team of 1 or 2, right? But now, how much more software can you as an
Bill.
organization go create, right? And so the makeup of people might change. You might be looking for people who can be more strategic as opposed to maybe
Yeah.
just coding, But I think there'll be a lot more hiring, honestly, that happens as a result of this wave. But I think to be on that forefront of the hiring process, you have to really have uh, be on the forefront strategically on how AI fits into the hiring game.
Yeah. So I think one thing you said just triggered a thought, which is AI agents are not just a job replacement transformation wave, potentially a wave to create a lot more work to be done by AI, but also new opportunities for humans to do work.
Definitely.
You think about, you said something about who's going to manage the AI. Like there's going to have to be portals and a dashboard and tools where, if let's just say you manage a call center for a big credit card company or something, um, if you're trying to introduce AI agents into that world, you're going to have the same metrics you care about. It's like how many cases were resolved on the call or in the chat. How good was the customer experience? The survey that went out, was it a positive result? Was it a negative result? Somewhere in between. Someone's got to stay on top of how the performance of that labor is trending over time. And it just occurs to me that the clients of staffing firms, there probably is no shortage of work. And if they've been given tools to do work faster, cheaper, and better, they're just going to find more work to do. So potentially it becomes an opportunity to enter new
Mm-hmm.
markets, to expand markets where this might be an opportunity for staffing firms to place even more people, different types of people, but also come in and train existing labor to do things a little bit differently. And in my mind, there's obviously big consulting firms, and a lot of staffing firms also do consulting, but it just occurs to me that the big staffing firms know more about how to manage like a human capital transformation better than anybody else.
And I mean, that is what this moment calls for. Human capital transformation is a good way to put it. I mean, every single human needs to be, I'm not saying, there are obviously roles and jobs that where AI maybe is less likely to impact right away. I mean, I don't know if any jobs are not going to be impacted long term here. But I think in the near term, like, there might be certain jobs that aren't as impacted, but like, as you think about desk oriented jobs, by and large will be impacted. And so I think as you start to get those types of jobs, ready for, like, think about the human transformation that needs to happen. um, if you're a staffing firm, could you go start to build um, build your candidate pool of people who are AI enabled, who are like very much in the forefront of AI and like pushing
Right.
the limits of how they do their role and their job. Because I think there's going to start to be a big disparity in productivity between people who are embracing AI and people who are just not at all embracing it or even opposed to it. And that's where I think, as a staffing company, you could come in and say, look, our people that we can bring in, they're AI enabled, they're ready to go, and they're ready to help you become way more successful with your
Yeah.
metrics.
And potentially people that are trained like that can garner a higher wage. And if you have higher wage earning talent that you can place, my guess is the placement fees you get in return will be higher. Um, and that talent pool right now, it's scarce. I mean, the amount of truly AI enabled accountants or administrative workers or data entry people, data analysts, that's still a very small talent pool. All the technology exists to do that work better, faster. It all just exploded in the last year or two. So it all exists, but there's still a big gap between the people who know and they actually use these tools throughout their entire day. It's a really small number of people. Like you said, though, a staffing firm has the opportunity to not only replace talent with agents, but also let's take the talent we do have and make them AI native workers. That would be a huge margin opportunity because you're taking the same number of people potentially, but they're now worth a lot more to your clients. And who's going to capture that difference, right? Should be the staffing firm.
And I think too, and Ryan, I'd be kind of curious to hear your thoughts on this as well. And getting back to kind of Agentforce, but like, I think where, beyond just this like human capital transformation and opportunity there for staffing companies, I think thinking about just the process that goes into staffing. I know, you know, from my perspective and being in the, seeing this process over and over again with clients, it can be a very tedious process. There's a lot of unstructured information, resumes, job posting. This is like unstructured
Yep.
data, right? And so as you think about an industry ripe for kind of a like just a process reimagination using AI, I feel like staffing is
Yeah.
one of the most ripe there. I'm curious to hear your take on that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll also have to offer some thoughts, but I'm curious to hear your
Yeah.
thoughts.
So I think we started the conversation thinking long term. So if we're in the boardroom with the CEO right now, we're talking about maybe the 3 to 5 year window of how is your company, your revenue mix, and how are you going to kind of change how you go to market in the future. Uh, I think that might be more near term than 3 to 5 years. But your question is more, what can they do right now? Like how do they change how they operate in the short term using AI? I just think about, to start, the candidate experience. Right now, these staffing firms, they've got an army of recruiters, and they do use a lot of technology and AI to kind of manage the early stages of like posting a job, having candidates say, I want to apply, and they submit a resume. And there's AI tools that analyze the resume. A lot of that's already happening. But
Mm-hmm.
think about the experience. If I'm looking for a job right now and I go to a staffing firm's website, there's a ton of places to click. There's a lot of different things that you have to look at and understand, like, where do I even go? I'm just picturing a world where it's like, hey, who are you? Hi, I'm Ryan. What are you looking to do? I want to be a salesperson at a software company. Awesome. Okay. Can you upload your resume? Great. A second later, it's like, tell us more about yourself. Okay. I'm yada, 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 whatever language I want to use. Right away, it can come back and say, thank you for saying that. I've already found five, maybe 10 roles that we have that you seem like you'd be a great fit for. And instead of providing links to a job posting, the AI agent could synthesize these roles and say, here's three. And I'm actually going to write you a synopsis of this job posting in a compliant way. We're going to follow all the federal regulations, but it's going to write something just based on my background and the interests that I have. And it's going to pitch me and it's going to say, we think you'd be a great fit. Here's why. Here's how much money you would make, yada, yada, yada. Great. I actually have questions. Before, you have to go to a recruiter and say, I have questions about the role. And you got to wait for a while. You can just ask the agent right there. How much travel would I have to do? What are the benefits like? What type, how many employees does my manager have? What's the ratio? All of those questions you can just kind of ask in real time. I've now taken a bunch of the hiring process, my education of the roles, and I've done that in about 5 minutes. And so at that point, it's going to say, do you want to apply for any of these? Sure. I want to apply for this one right here. It might know because it has some matching algorithm. I'm like a perfect fit for this one role that I just applied for. It might start interviewing me right there, right? Hit record. The system starts asking me like the same 5 questions they ask everyone. I
Yeah.
give my answers in a video. It saves all that, has a clip. And if I pass that first screen, it might automatically trigger, hey, do you want to schedule an interview with the hiring manager? Right
Mhm.
there. Click yes. I might have an interview in 2 days. Just pause for a second. That might have taken like 10 minutes. And I just got an interview that I passed and a second interview tomorrow or in a couple of days. To me, that type of experience, that has to exist. That needs to happen ASAP because once somebody has that, all the hiring managers are going to place their job postings on that place, right? But
Totally. Yeah.
if this just becomes table stakes,
Streamlines that hiring process
yeah. But
by
if
like,
every leading staffing firm just
yeah.
kind of uses Agentforce to do all of that in the next couple of months, now that's just sort of the cost of doing business. That is the expectation now is that type of experience. And now you're competing on something else, right? So I just feel like that from a candidate perspective, you can start doing that right now. And I know a lot of firms they've taken some bites at that apple. I've not
Hmm.
seen anybody who's kind of stitched that all together. And
Yeah.
there's absolutely no reason anymore why you couldn't do that.
I mean, and getting back to Agent Force, I actually think that what Agent Force is bringing to market is kind of that missing,
100%.
piece, and it's that Atlas reasoning and the reasoning engine that they have there, where being able to kind of reason about the situation and figure out which action to call in a smart way. I think is it's like a very kind of challenging layer to get right, and I think Agentforce has done an amazing job with it. But I think as you think about that experience that you just offered, like that is 100% a like doable experience. At Launchpad, we've been doing quite a few of these projects involving what we call automated evaluations of some kind. So, being able to automatically evaluate something, whether that be in this case like an application coming in, and you think about what that application coming in, being able to identify potential gaps in their experience versus what the job posting called for. That having that agent automatically be able to deduce what those gaps are and start to ask a couple of clarifying questions smartly, just like a recruiter would. And I think that it's really not even that hard of a thing to do. It sounds insane, but the raw like capability of the large language model now can handle a lot of that reasoning and sort
Yep.
of like deduction work. And then it's really all about having that sort of data pipeline and action pipeline there,
Yep.
which I think is made so much easier by something like Agentforce that has built this kind of full scaffolding
Yep.
on top of the large language model to just like, so you're not recreating the wheel from the ground up on how do you actually build on top of these LLMs. So
Yeah. And the unification of this whole experience, I'll use that word unification. If you have that mindset to just make sure this is a unified experience, and on the back end of all of this, there's a CRM so that, and Salesforce, so that every interaction that you have, like I just said, hundreds of thousands, millions of candidates coming to your digital experience, having that sort of end to end experience, all of that is tracked and saved. at the profile level, at the company level. It's all in the same kind of central database inside a data cloud on the back end. You didn't think about what that means. You're no longer relying on human recruiters to input data. No one is responsible for cleaning up their Salesforce information and tracking candidates through the process. It's all done automatically, which means as a business analyst or as your CFO, whoever's trying to figure out, let's get a real time pulse on how our business is performing this day, this month, this hour. You know the data is accurate because it's all being captured automatically by a software system, an AI system, right? I just feel like the transparency and the ability to just, from a business intelligence perspective, just understand what's really going on, what changes you should make, where you should hire, where you should move things around. Um, it just creates a whole nother level of insight and trust that the information you're analyzing is accurate. Um, and then we didn't talk about the other side, like the hiring manager side, but everything I just said about the candidate, that's just in reverse. It's the hiring managers on the other side of that. Their whole experience is now streamlined. So
Mm.
it just it just feels like a industry where, because everything was so unstructured, it always has been, it still is, there wasn't a great technology solution to marry the gap between CRMs and databases. They were always so structured. You needed to have structured data. There was fields.
Mm.
You could put in, unstructured text and you could have documents and whatnot. But without large language models, there was no way to marry the natural free flowing world that we all live in, which is what the staffing for world lives in, and the back end need of a system of record and a database that is just accurate, real time, updated, and trusted. There's no other way to do it without the tools that we just described.
Yeah, I mean, you think about like, you have a conversation with a candidate, and to have that conversation immediately be just transcribed, to have the key notes and takeaways from that conversation, be posted in your CRM or into your ATS system, being able to also then, let's say maybe that candidate is not a fit for, doesn't end up getting hired for the job. Well, 2 months later, another job pops up, and the system can automatically see that that candidate in that conversation with you expressed interest in
Yep.
something that this job kind of like also has in its job description. Like, now you have the ability to start to marry that unstructured information together in a way that allows you to then have, imagine that AI agent sending a text message to the candidate like, hey, thinking back to our conversation, the
Yep.
interview from 2 months ago, we thought this role would be really great because of X, Y, Z. Like, that message and that candidate reading that is going to be like, they're going to pay attention to that message. Like, you remembered me, you cared about what I had to say, and now you just teed me up with an opportunity that is really relevant to, and that's really what gets me excited about AI ultimately, is like, how much opportunity are we going to go create because we have this capability that just, so much lost opportunity is right now is lost to the fact that conversation and unstructured data is just like, can't be tapped into, but now it can. And so it is
Yeah.
pretty exciting. And the use cases are there for sure in staffing.
Yeah. Well, I guess in summary, I would just encourage anyone in staffing, even if you're not super senior in staffing, is you need to start building out your perspective on what do you want your process and experience to be for candidates? What do you want your process and experience to be for the hiring manager side? And instead of feeling like you have to look at what technology exists and then fitting a process into that,
Yeah.
map out, like, if you had a magic wand, what would be the Ronstadt, the Robert Half, the Adecco, like, pick a name, but brand and figure out, like, what is your ideal experience. Start there and then work backwards, because the technology now exists with large language models and with Agentforce and data cloud on the back end. That entire experience, whatever you imagine, it's likely possible right now, or it will be very very soon, depending on where you want to take it. And the last thing I would say is,
Mm-hmm.
chatbots, and you mentioned like kind of a sales automation extension where you're reaching out to a candidate after the fact and you're pitching them something new. Sales automation and chatbots, they used to get kind of a bad rap because they would say things that just they weren't really relevant, or it wasn't personalized, or it just sounded very Mad Libs. It was like a Mad Libs type approach. If you have data cloud and a CRM infrastructure where all of that data is automatically tracked and it's accurate and it's real time and it's being fed into the model as a RAG, right? You can define RAG better than I could, but as long as the model has the accurate data when it's sending that note, when it's having that conversation, all of that risk around hallucination or just kind of a crappy output, that goes down to almost zero if you have a data layer that is completely accurate and trusted on the back end. So long way of saying I really encourage firms to start doing this right now, and work with a partner like Launchpad, call Salesforce, have a partner sitting there kind of guiding you through this, because those of us that have been doing this for, I've been doing it for 12 years, 10 years in staffing, we kind of know what the potholes are or things to avoid. We know what a bad deployment looks like and how to avoid that. So I would just say don't wait and just start right now, because like I said earlier, once one or two firms figure this out, a lot of the volume is going to start to move towards that game changing experience. Like when Google came out, that became the way to do search, right? I think in staffing, we still haven't quite found that silver bullet type experience, but there's no reason why these firms can't create it now.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think like this is that kind of internet style transformation. When the internet came out, there's people all over the board on how much risk they were willing to take and sort of pushing into it. And I think right now is that same type of moment with this AI transformation. We have the first human level intelligence ever that's not human. It is a massive transformation to how we work, how we do business, how the world works. And fortune will favor the bold. The people who take this and take the torch and reimagine themselves from the ground up with this technology embedded, from start to finish, those people will win. Those companies will win. And my prediction is most people will be too soft in their movement into this. And so when you say like, try to reimagine your process and like what it could be, one of the big challenges is it's really hard to reimagine it, because it's really hard to get your head around just how capable this technology is and will become here in like not just 2025 but 2026. I mean, there are a lot of people saying we'll be reaching AGI within the next year or two. Like that's crazy. We're talking about literally artificial general intelligence reaching human level within the next year or two. Artificial super intelligence, maybe in the next 5-6 years. We don't know. I mean, who knows? But like, long story short, like I do think that your comment of take the time to sit down and do that kind of art of the possible reimagination work. Bring in a consultant who understands and really really has that appreciation for just how transformative it can be to help you think outside your own box, right? And help you shape that art of the possible of what that experience could be. But be ambitious, be bold, because I do think that there's going to be some people who are bold and they win and they become the de facto in the industry, and then there'll be the people who move too slow and really are panicking in a few years.
Yeah, and you triggered something in my head, which is the last pitch I give for Salesforce on this. We think about Salesforce as this conglomeration of different clouds: Sales Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Service Cloud, Agentforce is this other thing, and then Data Cloud. Especially in the staffing industry, I think you can really start thinking of this Salesforce as one thing, and Agentforce really unlocks and also ties everything together, because you're not going to need a recruiting agent and then a marketing agent and then a sales agent. It's all one agent. The consumer is going to expect to have a consistent experience from that brand, right? And on the back end, if you're trying to place a candidate, there's going to have to be an applicant tracking system. If you're trying to sell them on something, you're going to have them through your Sales Cloud pipeline. If you're trying to maybe pitch them something in a year, 2 years, that's now a marketing cloud type thing. If all of that needs to be recorded and all the data needs to be in one centralized place, tied together across clouds, that's now a data cloud. So I really think this is an opportunity to start thinking about rationalizing your technology. It's going to behoove you to have everything in one place and have all of the verticals inside of your company. They all have to be talking together uniformly because your customers, they're going to expect a seamless experience, right? Where you don't want to have the recruiter you're talking to help place you today.
Yeah.
You don't want somebody else pitching you a new role in a month or two or a year or two. It should be the exact same experience. They should remember everything you told them. That will not happen if you have a separate system doing marketing, AI outreach to you, a separate system tracking your It all needs to be in one place.
Yeah, and I mean, at least you need to, even if you're not in a position where you have, all of your technology in one place, like you definitely need to route your data into a data lake, that has vector capabilities, right? Which is
Yep.
what Data Cloud
Yep.
provides, is that ability to, you know, uh, to move vast amounts of information, from and from other data lakes like Snowflake and things like that into it. So it's, I guess, like, sometimes I think it can be a little bit unrealistic to say, okay, you're only going to use one tech stack. But like, I think, just the key point that you're making that I would agree with is there is a centralization of data that needs to happen, in order for that rag to have the ability to actually like be effective. It needs to be able and especially when it comes to customer data, like
Yep.
centralizing that customer data. And that is where Data Cloud shines, right? You have that
Yep.
ability to normalize data from different sources and things like that into a unified customer profile, and then run RAG on top of that.
Yep. And
And
just to
so, yeah,
define for those, because I always have to check my definition. So retrieval, augmented generation, RAG.
yeah.
Yeah.
RAG sounds like why would I want a RAG?
Yeah. No, I think that's a good closing
Yeah,
thought, which is the
yeah.
reason it's important to have a central data lake that basically has more or less real time access to all of your company's data in one vector database, that keyword
Hmm.
vector. The way I think about that, and I explain it to my customers, on the AI agent side, the AI agent needs to be prepared to respond to pretty much any type of request. Meaning, it might be a sales request, it might be a marketing request, it might be a customer support request. In order for the agent to accurately and effectively respond to pretty much anything in one interface on the back end, there needs to be a central database that is incredibly searchable and it can tie different pieces of data into one payload that never existed before from that vector database just to respond to that one request, which maybe never existed before in the history of the world. You don't need to predict what that request might be, which you used to have to do. Now the request can be anything, and as long as all the data is there, it can pull what it needs, package it up, and feed it into the model.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. And like one way to maybe think about it is like if you were training a new hire and they were sitting down and a request came in, and you're going to put everything in front of that new hire that they need to read and consume to know how to respond to that situation. You're going to put their customer information in front of them.
Yeah.
You're going to put here's how you respond to, okay, they're asking about like a refund. Here's how we handle refunds at this company. Here's what this customer ordered. Like, and you're going to package that up and you're going to put it in front of that person to then take the right action, right? That's what the RAG is doing. It's pulling all of the most relevant information pertaining to that request and teeing it up so the AI agent can make the right decision. And so if you don't have all of that relevant information in a place where it can access, it's going to have a half baked,
Yep.
ability to appropriately respond. Just like if a human didn't have all the
Yep.
right information, they would probably make the wrong course of action. And then on the actioning side of things too, when it goes to take action, maybe to process that refund or do something, if it doesn't have the ability to do that, it's going to ultimately fall short and need to like escalate to a human. And sometimes you want, maybe refund is a good example where you might want to escalate that to a human. But like, in general, it's going to be the RAG side of things, being able to make sure that has access to all of your data that is relevant to that customer. And then on the actioning side of things, making sure that you're able to tap into any type of, either read or write based actions into the system to be able to automate, fully tap into the power of these agents. Salesforce makes all of that extremely easy with their, with their Atlas reasoning engine, with the fact that you can use flows for actions. You can also use, Heroku for very complex actions that are sort of require custom programming. So there's all sorts of things you can do with the Salesforce platform, both on the on the RAG side, but also on the actioning side. But yeah, that'd be my 2 cents on like why Salesforce and why I think it's well positioned for just making it a lot easier to build these more innovative agent experiences. I think they've done a great job
Yeah,
architecting that dual kind of approach,
for
RAG
sure.
plus data centralization, data lake, RAG plus the actioning layer and the reasoning layer on top of that.
Yeah, and that's why you're a Salesforce partner, and that's why I work at
Drinking the
Salesforce.
Kool-Aid.
Oh no, that's why we're here. Let's leave it at that because we could talk for 2 hours, and we'll just come back on and talk again about something else.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. I'm sure. I think we've definitely gotten deep on this subject. So no, it was fun chatting through it.
Yeah, have a good weekend, Ryan.
All right, you too. See ya.